Off the beaded path, your beading starts here. Shop at Off the Beaded Path Bid Store.
Hey there, my name is Kelly Dell with offthebeadedpath In today's video, we are going to learn how to make some fun star earrings. I initially had hoped to release these before the July 4th holiday here in the States, but I had the open star earrings that everybody was asking me for, so wanted to go ahead and get those out. So again, you can make these for a holiday, you can make these just for fun to wear with an outfit, whatever you want. You can make them as long or as short as you want them. They are just a lot of fun. I do have a step-by-step tutorial for sale on my website at offthebeadedpath Now let's go ahead and look at the materials you're going to need to get started. So before we start the stitching part of our earring, we're going to go ahead and use our 20 gauge wire. And you need about 2 pieces that are about 4 to 5 inches long a piece. And we're going to use our cutters and cut those 2 pieces. Now, I'm going to be using my round nose pliers, and I'm going to come down on the wire about 2 to 2.5 inches. And here at the plier itself, the round nose, and you can see I'm holding it here near the very tip of the plier. I'm going to take my thumb and bend the wire straight out at a 90-degree angle. I'm going to come back in again with the short end of the plier, or the narrow end of the plier. And I'm going to come in just about this far, and I'm going to turn the wire back around like this so that I get a loop. Now we want this to be a smaller size loop. If you make a big loop, your cap is not going to fit over it well. So the small loop would be best. And then you're going to use your flat nose pliers and you're going to grab a hold, and I am only going to wrap this one time, one complete turn. That is it. I'm not wrapping it more than that one complete turn. And then I'm going to trim that excess wire. If you have a little tiny piece of wire poking out, you can use your bent nose pliers there and kind of fold it in. Make sure it's nice and straight there. And we're going to do that for the second piece of wire. Once you have both of those wires complete, you can kind of set them to the side for a minute and go ahead and get your needle threaded with 2 yards of thread. Now, I do not use anything like a fire line or anything like that for fringe earrings because it makes them too stiff. So today I'm using my KO thread. I'm using the red thread, but you can use whatever you have on hand or whatever you want. And I have my 2 colors of 11s. You don't have to use 2. You can definitely use 1. But 2 colors of 11s, and then by number 1, 3mm bugles. So you can see there, it's a little tiny bugle. It's not big whatsoever. And that's what we're going to be making our star out of. So you can see here, I'm going to be using my blue and white for this star. But I also wanted you to see, you don't have to do just, of course, red, white, and blue. You can do any colors that you want. And you can do different things. Like here, I did a single color going up the top, and then here I did 2 of my colors kind of going up to the top, and so it's completely up to you and how you want them. But that's what you're going to need to pull out is your colors and your bugles that you want to use, and go ahead and get your needle threaded with those 2 yards of thread. So to get started, I'm going to thread on 5 of my first color. This is going to be the center color of our star. So I'm going to thread 5 of those on, and then I'm going to go through all 5 beads one more time. And then I'm going to pass through that first 11-0 again, and it's going to look like this. Now we're going to need our second color of 11-0s, or like I said, you can still use 1 color if you want. But we're going to pick that up, and we're going to go through the very next 11. So we're not skipping anything, just going through the very next bead. Now, when I go through that last 11, I'm going to go ahead and step up through the first 11 that I added of the white in this row. So then that gets me in position to start the next step. Now at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and thread the needle, this short little tail thread here. I've got the needle threaded, and now I'm going to take and pass through a few more of these beads before I trim this short tail thread off. But it's a great time to go ahead and get rid of that thread. Here we go. And then once you get that, then you can go ahead and get rid of that little thread there. Now we're going to thread on one bugle, one 11-0, and one bugle. And you are going to pass through the very next 11-0 that's sticking up. And when you do that, it's not going to be pretty, okay? This row is not a pretty row. It won't be pretty until we do the next row. So I have on a bugle, an 11, and a bugle. Pass through that next bead. I'm going to do this all the way around. And one more there. Whoop, there we go. And when you finish, it looks like a big hot mess. But what we're going to do on this next row is going to fix that. So from the 11-0 that I'm coming out of, I'm going to pass through the very next bugle. And once you do that, we're going to skip the 11-0 that's here on the top. And we're going to go through the next bugle and 11-0. Now, when you pull that thread, make sure that it goes underneath the bead here and it doesn't get caught on top of the bead. And you see how nice and pointed now that is. So we go through a bugle. We skip the 11-0 and we go through the bugle and 11-0. And that gives us another point. So we're going to do this all the way around, popping out our points. Now, once you get all the way around, if you want to, you can go through again and go through and do the same thing one more time. And what that'll do is that will stiffen up your star a little bit and make you feel like you've got a little bit more of a stiffer, substantial piece. Completely up to you and how you want to do it. So once you do that, you'll notice now it looks incredibly better. It looks more like it should. So we want to step up by coming out of one of these 11s here at the tips of the star. So I'm just going to continue on through one bugle and the 11-0, just like that. So on this first one, we're doing 3 different lengths, just like this. And I do them in this order. I do the shortest, the longest, then the median. And then they kind of lay however they want to. And it's also going to depend on the tightness that you stitch these with of how they lay. But this is how I like to start them out. So the first one that we're going to do is going to have 12 beads that's going to go up and down. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to thread on 12 of the beads. And again, remember, it doesn't have to be one color. You can do 2 colors. You can do a pattern, whatever you want. So I'm going to do 12. And then once I put on those 12, I'm going to take one of my loops. I'm going to thread the needle through the loop. And then I'm going to come back down through 11 beads of the 12. So when I pull that thread straight down, it pulls everything tight. You can see there what it looks like. So if I pull this back, you can see I still have one bead there, and that's what we want, because now I'm going to take 111.0, and I started by coming out of this left side of this point here. So now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come through the right side of that point. So when I do that, those two beads will sit side by side. So I'm going to go up through, and I'm going to come all the way back to the top, go through that loop, and then when I come back down, I'm going to pass through a few beads, and this is what you got to be careful of right here, making sure that there we go. Making sure it doesn't get caught there. Now, after I've gone down through a few beads, I'm going to take the needle. I'm going to bring it behind and leave a little loop. I'm going to pass the needle through that loop, and I'm going to pull very carefully to make sure that that loop goes between the two beads that I was coming out of there. That puts me a little half-hitch knot. So I'm going to go down through a few more beads. I'm going to do another little knot. Again, you want to make sure that knot goes between the two beads you were coming out of. And then I'm going to pass back down. Go through that point one more time. And if you want to, you can pass down through the beadwork of the star. You can pass up through here. It is whatever you want to do, as long as that you've got that secure and you're happy with that. Then you have that first little star piece complete. Now what you want to do is make a second star. I still have plenty of thread left, so I'm not going to have to rethread my needle, and I'm going to go ahead and do another star, and then I'm going to tell you the counts for this side. So when you get your second star done, the amount of beads that you are going to put on is 34 11/0s. And again, that is our longest one that we have here. Of course, please feel free, if you don't like earrings that are as long as these, you can make these as short as you want them. It's completely up to you. But if you want them to look like this, the middle one here is going to be 34 beads. Now, when I come in and I get ready to attach it to the wire, I'm going to come in here on the right side of the beadwork, and I'm going to take the needle up through the loop there. Remember, I put on 34, so I'm going to pass back down through 33 of the beads. So you pull through just like that. And then everything else is going to be the same. We're going to add that one bead and then come back up and add our knots. So just like this, come through, and then everything else is going to be the same as we did here on this short one. We're going to go up, we're going to add our knots, the whole 9 yards. Now, when you get to add the third star, it's going to be done exactly the same way, except for our third star, we're going to be adding 23 size 11 seed beads up this way. So at this point, you're going to need your bead caps. These are the ones that I use. We sell them online in our web store. And you can see they are just super tiny little caps. And so what we want to do is we want to thread the cap down the wire. And you can see it just covers up the loop and our little bit of thread there. So now we're going to use our pliers, our round nose ones, and I'm going to make a loop just like I made before. So you can do a wrapped loop or you can do a plain loop. Whichever one you do is going to be completely up to you. But you're going to wrap that wire. For me, since I'm doing a wrapped loop, I'm going to wrap it until it meets the cap. And then I'm going to use my nippers, cut it as close as I can. And then if you have a little piece sticking out, you can take your little pliers and kind of push it in there so that that takes care of that. And then you are going to add your ear wire. And then close that loop and make a second earring for a pair of earrings. So again, you can play with these and have a lot of fun no matter what color scheme you do. They are just a lot of fun and they're dangly. You can make them longer, you can make them shorter. You can add more than 3 stars if you wanted to. It's completely up to you. This is just a guide to get you to having fun with your project. So guys, I hope you enjoyed learning how to make these super quick and easy earrings. They're a lot of fun. You can make them longer, you can make them shorter, you can add more stars, whatever you want to do. So they are just a fun, quick project to make. So next week, we are going to start a whole new series. It's going to run us the rest of July, all of August, and almost, I believe, into September. And it is going to be incredible. So make sure you come back next week to see what we're going to be doing.
Off the beaded path, your beading starts here. Shop it off the beaded path, beadstore.com. Bring your vision near.